Good evening. I'm going to call the order to the November 2nd, 2021 meeting of the Wayne City Council. If I could have everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mayor Racy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Porter, absent. Councilman Dowd,
Here.
Councilwoman Skiff,
Here.
Councilman Wagner,
Here.
Councilman Brock,
Here.
Councilwoman Wass.
Here.
A quorum is present. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
Move to approve, Dowd.
Support Wass.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 2, City Council minutes, 2A, regular meeting of October 19th, 2021.
Move to approve. Support Wass.
Any changes? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Public questions regarding items on the agenda. Public comment is conducted in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. Each public comment is limited to 3 minutes, which will begin when the speaker approaches the podium unless modified by a majority vote of the City Council. Public comment shall not be disruptive nor contain any profanity, racial, ethnic, religious, sexual, or national origin slurs or overtones. Public comment shall not contain defaming or slanderous personal attacks. All public comments shall be directed to the City Council. The City Council will not respond during public comments. Any violation of the public comment procedure shall constitute a breach of the peace. If a member of the public engages in such breach of the peace, they may be ordered to be seated immediately or removed from the meeting by the chairperson of that meeting.
Mr. Amos, you had your hand up.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Amos. Evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Vern Amos. I live on Stellwagen. My personal opinion is that council voted on 10 vehicles last week. It should remain at 10. If you decide to go with 2 more police vehicles, you should take 2 away from the 10. As far as the windows for the parking garage, a lot of those windows have been out for years, and it's not like we got 100,000 people trying to park there. So I think that's a waste of money. Just leave them out. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Osborne.
Mayor, Council, my question would be, when you recite any violation of the public procedures, that it be typed in what you're referring to, of what procedure of the charter that you're referring to, that you're citing a person shall afford the opportunity to talk. And you have chapters, you have procedures, you have numbers, 5128 and 5129. You have those to address. They should be placed right on here. I don't know who made the item or who drew it up, but it doesn't refer to as pursuant to a compiled law, right? Right, sir? When you recite something that you're going to be judged for, you usually have to cite on what grounds, okay? And you have not mentioned anywhere in here that you as a council follow Robert's Rules of Order. What edition of Robert's Rules of Order? And as big, bold lettering, I think the people need to be afforded sometimes we come here and there's blank pages. If you're so gung-ho on these rules and procedures, which are, now, if you remember the title, Mr. Porter said that's the first thing he's going to do. The rules and procedures of the council, not the people, of the council, because nobody knew what Jack and Jill were doing here. So that was his idea. Miss Kelly Skiff, when she was on that side, we talked many years ago of having an ethics board. Haven't heard from that. And I'm glad we have a fireman here today.
Please direct it through the council.
I'm just standing sideways. I have a bad knee. Do you want my doctor's order?
Please just
Okay.
face the council.
And see, this is part of the interruption that you don't give courtesy to us. All right? I just made a point and said, and this is not on the clock. This is at the beginning. I just said it was nice to have a firefighter here.
Time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Where does
Anybody
it
else,
say-
please?
Where does it say 3 minutes?
Mr. Clearman, please vacate the podium.
This is
Mr.
the
Clearman.
opening. This is the opening, sir.
Well, it's in bold. You said you read
Pardon?
it. It's right here. You read the thing. It says 3 minutes. Mr.
No, I didn't
Clearman,
have
please.
time to read it. That's why you
Please sit down.
indoctrinated it
Okay,
right
thank
away
you.
To breach the peace and keep people quiet.
Thank you. Please sit down. Mr. Clearman,
Hi, on item 3B, to the point that a lot of those windows have been broken for years. We put new windows in, they're just gonna be broken as well. We aren't adding any security. There's nothing in here about the glass being shatterproof. So I don't think we have any reason to believe the new glass will be broken just as soon as it gets put in. We put in a new play structure at Forest Park, Rotary Park. They got vandalized before it even opened. We put a new play structure in the Atwood Park. Pieces got broken off of that. So unless we have some kind of guarantee that this won't be broken as well, we're just throwing good money after bad. We could vote to spend $15,692.30, which is the lowest money here. Or we could vote not to spend anything at all unless we have some way to guarantee that the money we're spending will actually be used for glass that isn't going to be broken right off the bat. And on 3A, can we lease a fire truck? Just curious about that. We're leasing the other vehicles, but I don't know if that covers fire trucks as well. That's all I had. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything on the agenda that they'd like to speak on? Seeing none, please move the agenda.
Item 3, general items. 3A, approval of the purchase of a new 2021 Sutphen fire truck to replace engine 8 in the amount of $612,096.29 to be paid for from the American Rescue Plan monies.
Move to approve, Wagner.
Support Skiff.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll do a little brief PowerPoint here to kind of bring you up on speed of where we're at with our apparatus so the public understands what we're asking for. It's a major capital purchase, as we all know. We're kind of in a unique position to where we can use ARPA funding for it, so we don't have to tap into the city's capital dollars for this. It's consistently year after year, as a city manager knows, we put in for assistance to firefighters grants for an engine. Most cities get denied. Wayne has been denied for at least the last 4 or 5 years. We put in for a distressed cities grant for a fire engine. It gets denied. It's not that Wayne's, is a select group, most cities don't get approved. So you have to go back to, well, where do you get the money to come up with a fire truck, right? It comes from your capital plan. The ARPA money came at a good time. We were denied both the Distressed Cities grant and the Assistance to Firefighters grant this year. So to kind of bring you where the fleet's at for the Wayne Fire Department, we'll talk about some maintenance costs and really why the need is for a fire truck. So our current engine 5 is a 2008 Sutphen pumper. We're looking to buy a 2021 Sutphen pumper. We like the product. We've been very happy with the product. The truck currently has around 90,000 miles on it and has 9,641 hours on it. Obviously, these trucks, just like all big trucks, they idle a lot. They idle at fires, they idle at car accidents. The reason idle time is very important, as we discussed during our budget meetings, is your idle hours are given an equivalent value of 45 miles. So when you look at an engine hours of 9,641 hours times 45 miles, your wear and tear is the equivalent of over 433,000 miles. Any big rig mechanic's going to tell you that's when you start getting significant wear and tear. You start needing engines rebuilt, start needing some major motor work, and certainly you start needing some major pump work on these trucks. So if you look at our history, 2017 going through 2021, it varies on what we're going to spend on maintenance and repairs on these vehicles over the year. 2020, actually, it was 2020 budget, but it was actually earlier this year was a $24,000 that we had spent this year on that truck on some radiator costs. So you look at some of your major issues, replace the starter and ignition. We've replaced front back brakes, typical maintenance stuff, replaced the hoses, the entire coolant system. We've had to replace the water tank, springs, pins, bushings need replacement, and your front and rear springs need replacement. One thing that council asked us to do earlier this year was to do an independent review on our trucks to get an outside perspective on actually what somebody else thought of our vehicles. So we used Unique One Services and West Shore Services to provide those inspections and their independent review. And if this apparatus is kept as a frontline engine, it'll need extensive motor, transmission, and fire pump work. And that was from West Shore, January 2021. The apparatus is suitable as a backup apparatus, not a frontline apparatus. That was West Shore again. Truck's 13 years old and should be switched to a second line position. And later on, we'll kind of explain the life expectancy of a fire truck, which will trend right along with what their opinion is on being a 13-year-old truck. The truck that we're actually replacing is Engine 8. Engine 8's a 2007 Pierce aerial ladder. It's 24 years old. Just like most cars, 24 years old, it's hard to get parts for. Has 81,895 miles and 9,751 hours. It has actually less miles and less hours for as old as it is because Wayne Fire didn't run as much as it did in 1997 as it does now. This year, we're trending almost 4,200 runs. A lot of those runs our engine has to go on because the first unit's tied up on a medical or tied up on something else. So you're starting to utilize your engines more, which is why you're seeing the newer engines actually have more hours in a truck that's 24 years old. This truck was out of service in all of 2017, 2018, 19, and 20. It really didn't cost much money because your frontline truck was producing so well and didn't cost you a lot of maintenance issues. Really, the big issues with this truck is the aerial's inoperable and has been for many years because of electrical and hydraulic issues, and parts are no longer available. You have extensive electrical issues with the pump governor. You have excessive rust around the aerial torque box. Modem and microprocessor needs replacing, and you just can't get to parts anymore. This is what will your throttle governor and your other things that you need to pump and really drive the truck are affected by those microprocessors and modem boards. And if you remember email back in April of this year, we took the engine out of service permanently due to some critical failures during operations. Nobody was hurt. It was running uncontrolled at a fire scene. And that goes back to the issues of not having the parts available to fix the truck properly. So in April of this year, the truck was removed from service permanently. So in that independent review back in January on this truck's on borrowed time. That was in January. We found out in April that it certainly was on borrowed time because it was done. Parts are no longer available to repair this apparatus. Basically, today it sits in the bay. We can't fix it. The truth is the truck has very little value. We'll decide with approval tonight what we can do with that truck, but there really aren't a lot of options out there. No one really wants to buy a fire truck that's 24 years old. That doesn't really work that well. It's just the reality of the situation. So when we talk about industry recommendations, when we talk about that Unique One opinion of a 13 years time to put it into backup service, we say that because right now a fire truck takes 16 to 20 months to get. We used to be able to get them in about 9 months to a year. That just doesn't happen anymore. Obviously, COVID, we've seen what it's done to the used car market. We've seen what it's done to the new car market. We just can't get the apparatus as quickly as we could. So most apparatus will keep in service for 15 years frontline, and then we'll move into reserve status for another 5 and hopefully get a 20-year life expectancy out of that vehicle. We were able to get 24 years out of engine 8. Engine 5 is suitable, is deemed through the independent review as a backup apparatus. We know that it's a reliable truck for backup, and engine 8's no longer serviceable. You have to have a frontline truck and you have to have a backup apparatus if you want to run seamless operations in this city. We all know that engine 5 was in an accident on Michigan Avenue. We coordinated with Apollo Fire and it was delivered last week after many weeks of trying to get the parts available for it. And it's not because they just weren't available. It was just a matter of getting them and making sure everything was lined up so we could have the truck down for as little as possible, which will still be 5 weeks. And when you look at the starter replacement was 1 week out of service. The ignition replacement was 4 days out of service. The cooling system was 10 days out of service. Through all those times that I mentioned, we had to reach out to surrounding communities to borrow a fire truck. It's not completely uncommon. It's not like Wayne's the only city that has to do that, but we have to rely on surrounding communities to borrow their spare apparatus. If they need it back, then Wayne is without a fire truck. We would have to reach out to another community and see if they have apparatus available. That's why it's very important to have obviously reliable equipment to get our firefighters where they need to be. So some of the pros of replacing with the new apparatus is obviously it's going to reduce your unserviceable equipment. You're going to replace your outdated equipment. It comes with warranties, 5-year drive chain chassis, 10 years cab and other major components, and lifetime frame warranties. Often years ago, trucks were taken out of service because the frames rusted. They would fail the DOT inspection. Now these manufacturers are offering lifetime frame. You're going to have lower maintenance costs and you're going to have certainly reduced catastrophic failures. Hopefully no catastrophic failures, but there's no, we don't try to use that word. So some of your cons are your financial obligation, right? It's a big ask to come up here and ask for $612,000 for a fire truck, but we're asking for something that's going to last this city for the next 20 years. It's going to service this city for the next 15 years as a frontline truck. And we can reduce that financial obligation by using ARPA funds. And we can also reduce the cost of the truck by not having to finance it. And when we talk about a 16 to 20 month delivery time, 20 months on the long side, I know some of the other local cities have gotten fire trucks 3 months ahead of time. So we're hoping for a shorter timeline, but we have to prepare for 16 to 20 months. So when we're asking to replace a truck, we're talking almost 2 years from now before it gets delivered to our door. So as cities push off the purchase of this capital need, you're really working on borrowed time with your apparatus. So stock spec trucks, they just aren't available. Typically what we would do is we would try to find a stock or a spec truck that is going to match what we need. They're just not available. We can't even get a loaner truck. When we go to these shows, there's to be one coming up in April. Basically what these manufacturers are doing is they don't have stock or spec trucks to display at these shows. All these trucks have city logos on them because they've gone back to that department and says, can we borrow your truck for this 3 or 4 day vendor show so we can have something to display? Certainly not going to happen to us, but hopefully within 20 months this problem rectifies itself. I don't know if it will. As far as I know, the question was asked about lease options. There's not a lot of options out there, especially in a city like Wayne, because this truck's going to run and it's going to run hard. You're going to put, it's just no different than a lease on your car. You're going to put a lot of miles on it and they don't want it back. The used truck market, like the used car market, your prices are almost as much as they are for a new truck. It's not even an option. And you have to think, well, no fire department sells their new apparatus. You're looking at very old apparatus. So you're buying someone else's problem when you start looking at used trucks. So the cost to replace the truck is actually about $628,000, but with upfront financial obligation. The day we order this truck is the day that you're agreeing to pay this money, right? It's just like any other contract. You're not going to back out of it. So your upfront 100% payment option within 30 days is your best choice because you can get the price of the truck down to $612,000. And that comes fully stocked. That's with all the equipment you need for first response. It comes with all the major capital purchases that are going to alleviate having down the road, having to replace a thermal imager, having to replace this because the trucks come with the equipment that's needed to do the job. So the 100% within 30 days brings you down to $612,096. We would obviously see a contract here relatively shortly with approval that I would send to the city manager for approval. And any questions?
Any questions from council?
Yeah, all for me.
Any questions? Okay. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You got
Thank you
yourself
very
a
much.
truck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 3B, approval of parking structure north and south tower window repairs from quotes as follows. On-Site Solutions Incorporated, Livonia, Michigan, $15,692.30. Onyx Real Estate Solutions, Wayne, Michigan, $17,990. Signal Restoration Services of Troy, Michigan, for $58,000. Administration recommends that the city council approve the work to be performed by On-Site Solutions of Livonia, Michigan, in the amount of $15,692.30 to be paid from the city property fund. Approval subject to a contract acceptable both to the city and to the contractor.
Mr. Council.
Move to approve. Oh, do we do that now?
Yes.
Move to approve, Brock.
Second, Ross.
Okay, Mr. Queen.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So what you have here before you, this was actually a request by the ordinance department because of blight. We're trying to follow our own ordinances when it comes to city properties. And since we have this one sitting out there with broken windows and everything else, that's why we went ahead and got these 3 estimates. As you would see, I did write that up as saying window repairs because I know that a comment was made that about putting glass back in there, but this is not glass that's going, this is actually a board up that's being done at $15,000. They're boarding it up. There's the towers are so high and tall that they actually have to bring in a boom truck, a big crane truck kind of to get in there. And this also involves, so it's a board up of plywood. The plywood's going to be painted. Like I said, they need a big boom truck to get to it. It also requires them to remove everything that's broken currently in those windows, and it's pretty thick glass. There's a lot of broken glass in the stairwells over there. We've tried to keep the doors locked to those towers, but the kids managed to come in and vandalize every time we can lock those gates. They've managed to pry a piece of metal or something under the gate, and they ruined the gate, the electronic gate to the facility to get in. So they're breaking in and as they can, and it's hard to catch them because by the time you arrive, they're usually gone. So what you see before you, like I said, is it's a board up is what it really is. It's not repairing any glass. No new glass is being put in. We weren't going to be able to afford new glass, and it wouldn't make sense with the vandalism that's taking place over there. So the $15,692.30 is what you see, and that's to board up approximately 45 openings. And that glass is probably about, you're talking about 8 feet long in some of the areas, 8 feet by 3 feet wide, those areas that they're going to have to board up. So there's 45 of those openings. So do you have any other questions?
No questions. Councilman Skiff.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering, when we get these quotes, do we ever give those who put one in an opportunity to match it? The only reason I'm asking is because I see that On-Site is the one that had the lowest bid, but there's also a Wayne business here, and I was wondering if they were offered the opportunity to match it.
Wayne Business as far as who?
Oh, Onyx Real Estate Solutions.
Oh, right. So he was an individual that had come in and looked at it. And so we just asked them we gave them all the same data of what we were looking for. And then they just give us their dollar amounts and their bids of what they feel that they're going to be able to do it for. So no, I don't go through that process of saying, okay, here, let me, pick and choose kind of, or have somebody match. That's the whole idea of getting these estimates. And as the lowest one comes in, that's who we go with.
Would we not be allowed to do something like that?
I think at that point you would be adjusting like the bids or something, wouldn't you?
I figured the attorney was going to.
Maybe you can.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we're a low bid type of community. That's how our ordinance is set up. So when we do find the low bid, we do research on them to make sure they're a good contractor. In this case, Onsite has done much work for us before. We're very familiar with them. So unless we can disqualify the low bidder for any reason, we always do go with the low bidder per our ordinance.
Any other questions? Councilmember Wallace.
So we're boarding all those up. Obviously going to have no daylight in there. Are we putting more lighting in there?
No, because we currently have those, really, we have everything locked down, those towers and everything. The elevators are currently off. We have one that's really isn't working at this time. The other one, it works, but we just keep it off because no one's allowed in those towers at this point. We've locked everything so they can't get inside and continue to damage. Most of the damage, a lot of times on some of those windows, has occurred from the parking deck areas where they're able to stand. They find whatever object they've used fire extinguishers that used to be in there and just will throw whatever they can at the windows to bust them up. So, but currently those are all, the towers are all locked out. Every once in a while we find when we go through, they'll find ways to bust it all up. They cut the locks off sometimes. We've done it different ways to try to get them so that it doesn't happen. But no matter what method we've tried, we use metal bars, everything to secure all the doors, and you go back and somehow they manage to get into something. So
They're not in use at all right now.
no, the towers are not in use.
Any other Councilman Brock?
Will they also, you had mentioned taking away the broken parts and things like that. Do you think they might help us with some of the shards that are on the ground already, or will that be separate?
That's part of the
Oh,
cost.
that's great.
We're going to clean up everything that's around the towers currently, all the broken glass, debris, everything from the top of the towers down to the bottom levels on every level. So we're supposed to clean up everything.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Council?
No.
City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through the chair. One thing I wanted to bring up too is that even I believe Mike got a call, Mike Biden, from our district court judge stating that, the city was out of compliance with regards to following that ordinance. We do have, a blight ordinance that we have to uphold and the citizens have to uphold. So the whole point with her saying that is it's going to be difficult for her to uphold that if we're not following the same protocols. So that is why we're here this evening, so that, we are making sure that we don't have the money, like Ed said, to put glass in there. That would be a lot more expensive, certainly. But we do have to follow the ordinance just like everyone else. Thank you.
Okay. Ed, with the board up that they're doing, will it look like it won't look like a board up because they're painting it more
Correct. They're going to paint it to, it's either like a dark brown or a black to kind of match the windows.
to make
that
it
are
look like
currently
it matches with everything?
there. Right. You just won't be able to see through it.
No, I agree with this. I have a hard time when we don't follow our own ordinances and expect our residents to follow them. So we have to do the same thing as a city.
Correct.
Are we going to be able to address any of the graffiti upstairs and any of that, or is that a second phase type of a thing that you'll be looking at?
We kind of address it as we can. We don't have the manpower to constantly go back every time, but as we see it, yes, we most certainly go and try to paint over whatever graffiti that they put up on there. Usually it's on the upper levels.
The top floor is horrible.
Right.
It's horrible. I mean, is there any way that we can persuade people from going up to past the second floor? I obviously they jump over, but for vehicles, I've been in there when people are racing down there. Is there anything that options for that, do you think, in the future?
There's options just to keep vehicles out of probably that we could
The barricades or
look
something?
at it. Yeah, just to keep vehicles, but the kids
then
that
you
come
still
in
have
there
kids.
on bikes or skateboards are gonna get by it anyways and still.
And then
get
the
up to
police are on foot.
floor. So,
Okay. Any other questions from council?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 3C, approval of adding 2 additional vehicles a 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle, and a 2022 Ford Maverick XL 4x4 Super Crew to the original enterprise fleet management list, bringing the total from 10 to 12 vehicles.
Wish of council?
Move to approve, Brock.
Support Was.
Okay. City manager, do you-
Sure. Thank you. I want to, through the chair, I want to thank council for bringing this back. The reason that when we brought the 14 vehicles to council, those were the worst of the worst, or they were replacements that we needed. And so we're not trying to certainly as, overspend or get more vehicles than we need, but what we have is just not working. We talked a lot about this before. One thing that I really thought about is the vehicles that we chose that we are going to replace are vehicles that are really in terrible shape. They're deplorable, they're not safe. So when we were talking about this, I did have questions from council members asking me, if you had to pick, if there were others, I mean, out of the four, what would be the most urgent vehicles? And right now, the 2 police vehicles have to be replaced at some point, and we would get better vehicle pricing and options with these lease agreements if we went into this direction. If council wants a little more explanation from Chief Strong about the 2 vehicles, I mean, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to express, or to talk about that with you. Or not. But I do appreciate the fact that council is bringing this back. And again, we did pick the worst of the worst to replace. And as far as Mr. Claremon's question, if I may, because it was an item on the agenda, large vehicles like fire trucks and dump trucks and things like that, the enterprise fleet management does not manage those. It's the smaller ones. So in the fire department, it'd be like the chief's truck or the fire marshal's truck or things like that. But those are a different animal when it comes to the large diesel vehicles. You're welcome, sir.
okay, yeah, chief, could you come up, please?
In regard to the unmarked vehicles, first of all, that money was already budgeted in the 2021, 2022 budget, so that's not any additional cost to the taxpayers. In fact, that one unmarked vehicle listed there, that's not even going to touch half of what we were budgeted. So we're still within the capital outlay budget for the police department. It's more or less, it's just a different avenue for getting the vehicle as opposed to purchasing it used from a dealership as we had planned. As far as the marked vehicle, there was a vehicle that was involved in what it seemed at the time to be a minor traffic crash, but after having it looked by numerous adjusters, it's most likely going to be a total loss due to a bent frame. I'm just trying to get further clarification from MMRMA how to proceed as far as if they're going to sell the vehicle to a salvage yard, etc. So it's just sitting waiting to be fixed or replaced at this point. It's out of service. And
Council questions?
Chief, were either one of these vehicles technically listed on the 14?
yes.
One or both?
So the unmarked, the marked vehicle was not. I believe on the 14, it was 2 unmarked vehicles.
Okay.
But the marked patrol vehicle, that's come up since. But there was 2 unmarked vehicles listed because again, that was part of our budget anyway. So I'd said, well, we can easily purchase these 2 unmarked vehicles and stay under budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Councilman Skiff? Ladies first. Go.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering if we went with the lease options tonight. I don't know if you're the right person to ask, but we were told that there was a time constraint on the last meeting as far as getting them.
Yes.
Would we still be able to get these 2 with the other ones that we voted?
So the marked vehicle is obviously the priority. We need to try and get that ordered ASAP. Because if we miss the 2022 line, we'd be kind of, I'm trying to think of a polite way to describe it, but we'd be out of luck. So that's a priority. As far as the unmarked vehicle, it's going to just depend on the different ordering windows. It might not even be that Maverick. It might be whatever fits within the budget and can be ordered. But the marked vehicle, yeah, there's a danger of missing the order window. So that's a problem.
Councilman Wagner?
Thank you. My opinion, if these two vehicles were going to be leased by the police, that should have been done out of the 10 that we approved last time. I understand that one additional vehicle has come, as you just said, a need for one additional vehicle. I could, as the motion stands now, I'm a no vote, but I could be in favor of getting one vehicle. I would still rather see these vehicles bought. The thing about leasing, I mean, this is kind of unprecedented, especially for our community, to go into a large scale lease of, 10 vehicles just all at once. By the way, I know the vehicles are needed. I am not questioning that at all. But what this does, especially with small communities like ours, it could put the leasing company in a position where they could have leverage over us. Now, what would they use that leverage for? They don't care about our policies, but they could raise their prices on all the leases, and there's nothing we could do about it because they know full well we could not afford to buy 10 vehicles at once. I mean, we buy anywhere between 1 and 3 vehicles a year, I think. So I,
That's correct.
it's a tough one for me because I know we need it, but I'm just not ready to jump into this lease like that. If the motion makers want to change this to leasing one vehicle for the police, I'll vote in favor of it. But as it is now, I'm going to vote no.
Any other questions from council?
Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
I'm just curious because this is a really tough situation because I think most on council, like everybody on council, is in favor of keeping the police department as efficient as possible. I can only speak for myself in saying when we tasked and said, go back and make it work with 10. I think I can speak for at least a couple people on council that we would assume that the first cars to have been taken care of would have been DPW, police, and then building and engineering. Building and engineering vehicles are low runners, and I know that Enterprise is very optimistic and hopeful that they're going to be financially beneficial to us to lease them through them in the long run because they are low runners. I am a little disappointed that police vehicles are listed on here to add to the list. Now, I get the one. I get the one, and I appreciate your honesty and candor on that. And I too am with the one. I really wish that the department heads would have come up with a solution to look at the priorities and not leave it in this scenario where they're asking for 2 more vehicles or 1 more vehicle technically be put back on the list. Is that correct way of saying it? I think.
I believe so, sir.
Okay. Any other on council? No. The mayor pro tem and I are the ones that asked to have this put back on the agenda. We felt it was a priority. Our building and engineering department has been getting the short end of the stick for years. It's just not appropriate and not safe for the vehicles they have. The administration had no ability to know that they were going to 10 till the meeting. And they went back and looked at everything and still took it down from the 14 to the 12 and felt that that was in the best interest of the community. We've also had a ton of problems with, I think it was the transmissions with a few of the police vehicles. And when we're looking at the maintenance side of this, that's where you're going to save the money. When I talked to Inkster, the maintenance for them was saving them, costing more in maintenance what it was going to cost to lease the vehicles. So if we're going to see how this works with the police department, you got to get something there to see if it's a good idea that we believe that it is, but you got to try something to see if it works. And I'm going to be voting in favor of this. I believe, from my understanding, there was council that wanted to see more than 10 vehicles, but wanted to make sure that we had 10 vehicles for at the minimum. They were afraid to do anything beyond that because they wanted to make sure that we had something. So with that, can we have a roll call vote on this? No.
Roll call vote. Councilwoman Skeff,
Can I pass to later?
No.
No, okay. No.
Councilman Wagner,
No.
Councilman Dowd,
No.
Councilman Brock,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Racy.
Yes.
This is a split. Split vote.
So I guess we'll have to put it on the next agenda when we have a full council.
Mayor, if you like, I'll make the motion to lease one vehicle for the police at this time.
I think, Mr. Mayor,
Huh?
you probably have to suspend the rules if you're going to add another agenda item. And I don't know that you could bring it back at the next meeting. We'll have to take a look at that. We'll have to wait.
We have to wait at the second meeting.
Or if there's some different type of resolution.
So we're not able to have a vote for one unless they suspect, we have to vote to suspend the rules first.
Well, Councilman Wagner indicated that he wanted to have a vote on an item that wasn't posted on the agenda, so there have to be a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay.
You
But
have
it's
to vote
just
on that.
changing this item though.
But this item's been voted on, and it did not pass.
But do you want to do that first and then we'll vote?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we temporarily suspend the rules of meeting.
So
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay,
No,
and
no.
at this time, I'll make the motion that we lease one additional vehicle for the police department.
Which vehicle?
Through the chair, I guess that if there's going to be a proposed resolution, it probably should be read. Well, the motion would be to amend the agenda to include the language of whatever the new resolution is. And then you'd vote to amend the agenda up or down, and then you could vote on that item.
So now he needs to make the motion what it is and then we vote on that and then we'll vote on that again.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So we need your we need to vote on your language of what that is first and then we'll vote on actually.
Oh, of suspending the rules.
Well, we did that, but now he's wanting us to vote.
Mr. Mayor, if it would be some assistance, if there's one of the two items that are currently in C that you want to vote on, then the language would have to be, the language of the resolution would have to indicate which those two items, instead of just a generic vehicle.
Okay, and okay, so my question to Chief, I'm assuming the 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility would be the priority? Okay. I'll motion that we give approval for administration to lease the 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle at this time.
So, Mr. Mayor, so that, my understanding is, so that would be a motion to amend the agenda to add the item as 3D on the agenda, to add one additional vehicle, which is a 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle. So you'd have the vote to amend the agenda, then you would vote on that item, which would become the new 3D.
So my motion needs to state, I motion that we add agenda item 3D to authorize administration to lease a 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle.
I second that, Dowd.
Motion by Wagner, seconded by Dow. The motion is to amend the agenda to create item 3D, which would be to add one additional vehicle, which is the 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle to the fleet. That motion was by Wagner, seconded by Dowd. Shall we do a roll call vote?
Sure.
Councilwoman Skiff,
Yes.
Councilman Wagner,
Yes.
Councilman Dowd,
Yes.
Councilman Brock,
Abstain. Can I make a different addition to the change?
well, we're in the middle of the roll call vote.
Oh.
so
You're in the middle of the roll call vote now.
what are the reason to abstain? Is that-
Is there a reason for the abstention?
Well, I would prefer to have both vehicles taken care of so we can just have this issue aside. and
That would be a different.
Start
that would be a
doing the work.
different motion.
Got to go closer to your microphone.
That would be an additional motion.
I would prefer that the purchase be made, the two vehicles, and just go on from there.
We have to follow through probably with this motion that's on the table.
Okay,
So
so I say no.
no on that, okay. And then Councilwoman Was
Yes.
and Mayor Racy.
Yes.
This motion carries. So we're creating item 3D. So we move the agenda onto that one, or
Pardon me?
we're moving the,
Yes, yes. Now you would have the vote on the resolution itself.
We have to make the motion for this 3D, correct?
Correct.
We approved,
We approved to put that motion on. onto
we
the
approved the
agenda.
language of the motion.
we
Right.
approved to add the item onto the agenda. So now, item 3D is to approve one additional vehicle to the fleet, which is a 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle. That's item 3D.
Move to approve, Wagner.
Support Dowd.
Councilman Skiff.
I had a question, but it was not necessarily about the vote. It was going to be before it. I was just wondering, Mayor, may I, through the chair,
Mhm.
ask the city manager? Since this was a new item added, this is not a item that those in the audience got to comment on. Do they have an opportunity for that? Do we
would
need to
leave- I would
allow
leave
them an
it-
opportunity for that?
I will leave it to the discretion of the body.
We did vote to suspend the rules, so I would say that would be at the discretion of the chair.
I don't care either way.
I think we should open up public comments just for this because this is something that they had not had an opportunity to comment on, please.
Eric. Thanks. Any questions?
No.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Skiff,
Yes.
Councilman Wagner,
Yes.
Councilman Dowd,
Yes.
Councilman Brock,
Yes.
Councilwoman Was,
Yes.
Mayor Racy.
Yes.
This motion carries.
A point of order, Mayor. Would you like a motion to reinstate the rules? No?
You could just proceed with the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Item number 4 is appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. 4A is appointment of Dawn Quarles of Howe Road to the Commission on Aging to fill an unexpired term until October 2022.
Move to approve.
Support. Lost.
Any questions from council? Just so everybody knows, Dawn Quarles has been a resident for over 26 years. She works as a nanny, has experience as physical and occupational therapy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 5, administration reports.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go through just as quickly as I can. I got slammed with quite a few items, but I'll move through swiftly. The last meeting, there was a question about bond total, not total debt, or total debt, not bond, total bonds. But we understood the question at the original or the previous meeting, that it was a request for total bonds. The total debt and the total bonds are the same. So when Katie, the finance director, Katie Sampo, stated 14,065,000, that is exactly what the bond and the debt is for the city. So it's the same thing. There was a question about a cable issue with AT&T Uverse by Nancy Pride. Jeffrey said the AT&T equipment tied to the cable station is going to stay in touch with Nancy to see if there's any improvements. We do our best. There were comments made about Westland having a designated cable station, which is top notch. That's very expensive. They have a contracted team that does the cable for them. They have an entire studio, and it's quite expensive. So I wish we could do that, but we're doing everything we can with the resources we have. And they have exactly. We're doing what we can with the resources we have. So we're doing our best. We do plan to try to use the cable station a bit more to start doing a lot more PSAs and public announcements. So we're getting to that point slowly but surely. There were questions about replacement of water and sewer infrastructure. Please contact the Department of Public Works or the Building and Engineering Department for all questions. A couple of good things. Infinity Homes started digging the basements for the construction of the new homes that are being built on the former Kiwanis Park site. 11 lots of the 22 have already sold. If there's anybody that's interested in purchasing a property, the number is 248-449-8084. Makers Market opens on Thursday, November 11th, and will run until the last Thursday in January. The market is located right next to Leo's Jewelers at 34852 West Michigan. The market's business hours are from 4 to 8 p.m. on Thursdays, and on Friday and Saturday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And again, this is going to start on Thursday, November 11th. The market will have a large variety of items such as handmade Christmas ornaments, bath bombs, candies, crystals, jewelry, wreaths, cocoa bombs, and much more. Couple good things. I want to let the council know that the tribunal tax payments back to Ford Motor Company are finally paid off. Took us a long time. As you may recall, back in the 2009-2010 timeframe, the city used the incorrect form and overcharged Ford Motor Company. So the city was responsible for paying that money back. So I'm really glad it took some time, but it's paid in full. So that's another debt we can erase that we owed back. Between the sale of the rec center, which got us out of that bond, and the tribunal tax payoff, these are two significant steps financially for the city. I want to thank Ed Queen, the city employees, the Wayne County, and the state of Michigan, and the citizens of Citizen Wayne Chris Miller for their help distributing the water filters on Saturday, October 23rd at the Department of Public Works. I think right now we've distributed probably close to 1,000, Ed? A little bit under that, yep. Also, thank you to the mayor and council for supporting the purchase of the new fire truck with the American Rescue Act funds. I just want to say something about the fire department before we move on. I know Chief Stratner did touch on it, but per capita, the city of Wayne has one of the busiest departments as far as in a city of its size. In fact, our numbers outpace some of the larger cities around us as it pertains to EMS runs. And there are a number of reasons why calls are so high, but regardless, the city has to have reliable first responder vehicles. When they go down, we have a significant gap in service, and these investments are critical. We're very lucky the city of Westland let us borrow a fire truck during this time. That's not going to always happen. And certainly, I'm sure debt has to be repaid at some point. I hope not, but when it's the scratch each other's back kind of theory. So we just have to make sure that our equipment is always on track. If we're going to provide this service, we have to make sure that we can absolutely provide it. So thank you very much for your support on that. I'm going to let one of you talk about the veterans event. I put a flyer out, so I'll give that to you since I've talked so much. And then Jody Walk from the library, the director, is going here tonight. She's going to talk about a program at the library. Jody?
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to thank Mr. Valdez for his suggestion at the last meeting about putting up a display. Can you? At the library to honor local veterans. We looked into it, and it is something that we're able to make happen. So later this week, there'll be a display in the library's lobby featuring photos of veterans who live in Wayne or have another connection to the Wayne area. If you're a local veteran, we'd love to include your photo. So anyone here or watching at home, please send us your photos and we will put them up on display. That'll be up all November. You can email those to us. Our email address is kind of a mouthful. It's help@wayne.lib.mi.us, or you can just Google us and our contact info is on our website. Alternatively, you can bring a photo into the library. We'll make a copy of it and put it on display. We'll be adding pictures all month, so please do keep them coming, and hopefully it'll be a great big display and something that we can do every year. So thank you again, and thank you to all the veterans for your service as well.
Thanks, Jody. And that'll conclude my report this evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Go ahead, and move the agenda.
Public comments for matters not on the agenda. Public comment is conducted in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. Each public comment is limited to 3 minutes, which will begin when the speaker approaches the podium unless modified by a majority vote of the city council. Public comment shall not be disruptive nor contain any profanity, racial, ethnic, religious, sexual, or national origin slurs or overtones. Public comment shall not contain defaming or slanderous personal attacks. All public comments shall be directed to the city council. The city council will not respond during public comments. Any violation of public comment procedures shall constitute a breach of the peace. If a member of the public engages in such breach of the peace, they will be ordered to be seated immediately or removed from the meeting by the chairperson of that meeting.
Mr. Mayor, Osborne, City of Wayne. Number 1 item is Mr. Brian Camilleri, our finance person, had made a statement that the city had experienced an economic downturn. Now, the city did not experience this economic downturn for paying for a lawsuit. It's we, the people, that are raised in taxes. So that's a misconception. That the city, you didn't take it out of any budget line, you just raised the taxes. So have a correction on that, please, Miss City Manager. You weren't here last time. Also, the lead line department, just 2 ladies. They're both answerable to a guy named Executive Warren Evans. They said they had the city of Wayne had made a press release. It was not the press release that our DPW executive made. So I asked the lady, I'll sit in my chair that I pay taxes for, and she went and got it after searching my computer at the health department, and she found it. And it's contrary to what was read to you from him to you. I'm trying to help some people in the public that don't know. They're in the blue, and you tried to breach. So, isn't it unusual that the county of Wayne has documents in there, in her big computer, and it was supposed to be something that was read here, but was not. It's got dates and times. And so, okay, we got the economic downturn. The lady from Jody from the library. We've always said park in our parking structure, our Wayne parking structure, because the bank doesn't like us parking there. I think that looks like a white elephant. Like I said before, the chief has gone through it, taken a look at it. Yes, it's bad. It wouldn't pass OSHA laws at all. It should be condemned. And that's about it, because
Time's up.
Thank you. Good evening.
Mayor and City Council. First things first, I want to apologize for walking out in the meeting, last meeting, at your 3-minute rule. Second, I want to thank City Manager Lisa for stopping me out the door and listening to my issues. Together, we've been working to see if I can get these issues resolved. Third, I called and talked to Al Hadius about the flood assistance program. Told him that we haven't received any denial or anything on the flood. He said the money's no longer there. It's gone, $5 million. He's gonna check to see if there's any more funds coming in for this program. And he'll call me in a few days. Haven't got an answer yet. And I just got today a notice from the Wayne County Assistance Program. Because of the decision, the timeline, the updated decision email, but we will get an email by November 15th on our decision. Okay, that's it. And the last thing is I want to thank Jody for taking on this endeavor about the veterans at the library. I think it's a good thing, and hopefully maybe we can continue on doing this every year. I'm constantly on the phone calling veteran families or whatever, trying to get their pictures on display at the library. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Powell?
Hi, Lenny Powell on Howell. First, I want to say thanks for all the people that helped at Hype. We had probably 1,000 people come through. I know mine and Kevin's table, we gave probably 5,000 6,000 pieces of candy out. So, and we had 20 plus businesses participate. Second, I'm back to doing the dinners at Wayne Tower. The next one is November 20th. I got a place on Facebook, what is needed. Council's been there. You can see what we do. I'm also taking donations. If you can't get out and shop, Chrissy's gonna shop for you. And I'm willing to give you receipts for everything you get. And that's it.
Thank you. Was that Ella? Did you have your hand up? Anybody else? Mr. Clariman?
For anybody experiencing food insecurity, there are a few events going on this Thursday. Hungry Harvest is going to Jefferson Barnes and handing out food boxes for anybody in need from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or until supplies run out. Cleaners Mobile Food Pantry will be at Adams Middle School on Palmer Road in Westland Thursday from 2 to 3:30, and they're going to be handing out 30 pounds of nutritious food to anybody needing it. And less of a deal, but Taco Bell is having steel-based steel taco day all day long on Thursday. And then one other thing is daylight savings time is ending this Sunday. It rolls back at 2 a.m. to 1 a.m. So everybody gets 1 extra hour of sleep that morning, which is great. But people always also get an extra hour to drink before they head out of the bars. So if everybody could just be extra careful that night. Watch yourself, watch the other drivers. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else this evening have anything? Okay, seeing none, go ahead and move the agenda.
Comments from members of City Council?
Councilwoman Was?
Tina's throwing things at me.
It's okay.
I'd just like to say I do love this thing at the library with for the veterans. I think that's a great idea, and I'm also very glad that you took that on. And I am unfortunately not able to come to the Veterans Plaza on Thursday, but I really am looking forward to seeing how that goes as well. So that's it.
Councilwoman Skiff?
Thank you, Mayor. Yay, I get to make this announcement. So, Councilwoman Was just mentioned the Veterans Plaza, what's going to be going on. So I'm just going to announce when it is and the time. It is Thursday. Oh, I'm sorry, Veterans Memorial. Sorry. The Veterans Memorial. That is Thursday, November 11th at 10 a.m. at the Wayne Veterans Memorial, which is located at 3355 South Wayne Road. So I hope that everybody can make it. I will be there, and hopefully we'll see you then. I have no other comments tonight, so with that, I'll close. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Dowd?
Thank you, Mayor. KFC Knights Columbus is hosting a open air Christmas market, which is November 19th and the 20th, which I think is a fantastic idea. something I know that they're doing on the property adjacent to the actual building. And this is something they're actually looking for help on too. They're looking for basically the whole family can help and help set up, organize, facilitate. So it's not just for KFC members, it's for everybody. And I know they're trying to do an all-inclusive event with this from all ages. So the helpers can be of all ages. I participated with Lenny and his family. They took me under his wing at the hype trunk or treat. I've never done a trunk or treat. I was a little overwhelmed at times, but the steady, cool hand of Lenny and his wife kept me calm and kept the candy flowing and moving along. It was magnificent. I was completely impressed, as I'm sure some of you know that are on Facebook. There was a lot of trunk or treat events throughout the whole week, right up till Christmas. Whoa, Halloween night, which is fantastic. And it just shows what type of community we have, what type of environment we offer. And I really was just, Halloween was, I think, a fantastic event this year for the city. Lastly, I want to say thank you to Lori Goen. I have been asking Lori to take me on a tour from her perspective as the community development. And we were able to arrange time to do that last Friday so that I could take a ride with her from her eyes and listen to what is a positive, what's an obstacle from the development of the city side. And I got to be honest with you, she took me to places in the city I had no idea were part of the city. And when you look at it from a commercial level, it's completely different than looking at it from a residential capacity. So I am impressed with what she had to offer to me, what she told me, and she renewed my confidence on where we're going with this. There's a lot of positive things that hopefully come together. 100% never happens, but if 50% of the occurrences happen, it's progress from a commercial aspect for the city. And with that, I'll pass.
Okay. Councilman Brock?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Wagner?
Yeah, just real quick. So it's great that the tribunal money that we owed to Ford Motor Company has been paid off. I think we do owe Ford Motor Company some thanks because they were willing to work with us and they allowed us to pay that money back over a number of years. They didn't have to do that. They could have said, nope, we want our money now, pay up. But we didn't have it. So they allowed us to pay it over a number of years. Mr. Amos, Vern Amos, volunteers at a place called Ventur's Haven, and he's talked about that here before. I went there for the first time the other day. It's a wonderful place. They do wonderful things there. They take care of our veterans when the federal government won't. They're doing what they can. Just a great place. I would urge everyone in the community, stop by there once, see what they do, and help them out if you can. Volunteer or do whatever you can there. Was I going to get into this? So next, the controversial stuff about these leasing cars and why I have opposed some of it. The need for these new cars is not in question. Everyone knows who needs cars. You could probably make an easy case that the city of Wayne needs to replace well more than 14 cars, maybe 20, maybe 30. Maybe they need to replace 40 cars. It's a need, but we have a structural deficit right now. And until that structural deficit is solved, not all of our needs are going to be met. Leasing is a dangerous thing because when you get addicted to leasing, you may never buy again because you won't be in a position to buy. It's a possibility. And this city has a long history of making decisions that make sense at the time where they've ignored the long-term consequences, which turned out to be quite negative. At a much more extreme example, the recreation center. There were some people who opposed that at the time of when they built it, but at the time they thought that they had to build it. They thought that would attract more citizens to the city, I guess. It didn't work and we couldn't afford it. So now, after spending something like 14 million to build it, we had to sell it as surplus for under 1 million. So leasing vehicles. Not everybody is opposed to leasing. I've never leased a vehicle for my personal use in my life, but there can be some positives to it, and I think we need to approach it with caution. And that's why I want to start with this downsized fleet that we're going to lease. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. A few things this evening. First off, I just want to thank all of the department heads and DPW workers, Chris Miller, everyone that came out to help out with passing out the filters to our residents. It was a very well organized event, and very appreciative for them to come in on a Saturday on their own time and care about our community. So thank you to all of you guys that participated in that. I greatly appreciate it. One other thing, I just kind of PSA kind of a thing, had a experience this week, and I'll try to do the short version of the story, but I think it's important that residents are aware of this, that you check for yourself. My wife and I came home and happened to, she went into the furnace room, heard something that wasn't normal, but just kind of blew it off, heard the furnace go on. I ended up leaving the house and our CO2 detector went off. And so I came back to the house and it was still going off, was able to get it off, but I called the fire department to see if they could come and check it out for me, just because I wasn't sure where it was coming from. They had an incident they were dealing with at the time, and as soon as that was cleared, they came over and checked out my house. And they had their detector and it was going off as soon as they walked in the door. So we vented out the house. They found the issue. And one, I recommend that people get CO2 detectors for their homes. Very, very important. Two, what the issue that it was, something came separated. And if we wouldn't have caught it, if I didn't have a CO detector, I probably wouldn't be here tonight. So I greatly appreciate the fire department. It's something that is very important, and I don't want that to happen to any of our residents. And I'm just thankful that we had a CO detector. Things could have been a lot different. So thank you, Chief, and the guys that came over. And please to consider getting a CO2 detector for your home. It saved my wife and I our life. We could have came home and our dog would have been dead. So you just never know. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support, Dowd.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.